Hello everyone, it's Sean. I'm back again to do the unboxing for models number 40 and 41. 41 because I intend to build the Star Trek II refit 41 years after after Star Trek II aired. And so I will unbox the Reliant first, the Enterprise second, and then I will show you the Aztec decal set I bought that is designed for them both. So I'll be right back with the Reliant. All right, I'm back. So you can see here I've got the Reliant. You can see it has Khan on the cover. That's good. Pretty good likeness of Ricardo Montalban. You can see the damage on it from, the Nebula battle. You can see the quote from Khan there. And the side of the box basically, oh, there we go. See, it comes with a dome base, but you'll see in just a moment why that picture for this particular model is somewhat inaccurate. There's the Reliant decals, complete with the damage decals. And on the back of the box, you can see how it is almost 10 inches long, 42 pieces, battle damage, and full color paint and decal guide, which are, of course, as always with these new kits, on the side of the box, it even gives the color suggestions. So light ghost gray, which is very good because AS26, to me, a light ghost gray. Perfect. And you can see the front and back decal guides here. The top decals, complete with the application of all the battle damage. And there is the port and starboard sides. So now we take a look in the box itself. We have the instructions. So you can see how you actually apply some things to the front and bottom saucer before you put the saucer halves together. Of course, you might have to do some painting of the parts beforehand. Then you assemble the saucer, you put on the shuttle bay. You assemble the pylons for the nacelles. Assemble them to the pylons as well. See, the grills are separate pieces, just like they were in the 2009 refit. There's the roll bar, weapons roll bar with the torpedo launchers. And then you attach these to the model. These are optional sections. I found it better to do a fixed base. Now you see the white that the base is? Well, if you look closely, you will see that it comes in a white plastic to begin with. So either you paint it black, or you paint it a dark reddish gray like the regular planetoid. And here are the decals. So you have the damage decals. Of course, I'm not going to use all of them, only some of them. You can see the shuttle bay door decals, pin striping, dark windows, sensor bands. You can see almost a duck egg blue like the aqua on the Enterprise B. And you see the registry decals, the phaser guns, the RCS thrusters, and of course the windows perhaps of the secondary hull or the nacelle struts, because it doesn't really have a secondary hull. Oh, and around to the bridge dome also. And then you look at the clear parts, which are basically the warp nacelle grills and the impulse engines and maybe the bridge dome, impulse deflector crystal. So you can see just a moment. There you go. There's a better view. There you are. Okay. So that is those. The next step is the top and bottom saucer halves themselves. Now, here it's loosely put together, sort of test fit onto the pegs themselves. Now, the interesting thing is, you see the front and back pegs. There don't appear to be any other pegs. I mean, maybe these little nubs fit in. Oh, I see. Okay, I was wrong. See? Peg holes, notches. Yeah, I get it. These little tabs have little hooks pointing out, and there are little slots on the side of the hull that those tabs fit into, and the pegs as well. And because it's a much thicker plastic, you can barely see the copyright information on the inner saucer. Oh, that's perfect. All right, so that's good. I'll move on to the other parts. Right, so the other parts come in a tree with several, well, there's 2 sprue trees, actually. This is almost a color of pearl. So you see the nacelle grill attachments, the pylon attachments, and the weapon roll bar sections. You can see those here. And the second piece, which I have to turn this way so you can see it properly, the nacelles themselves, the lower sensor dome, top bridge dome, the weapons ports, and other top half of the weapon bar. So that's all for the Reliant. I'll move on to the Enterprise, and then we will look at the combined Aztec decal set, which I ordered soon after it came out a few years ago. All right, I'm back with the Star Trek II Enterprise Refit. That was my introduction to Star Trek in 1988. My mom taped the movie for me. That was the ABC Extended Edition with the extra scenes, particularly in Kirk's cabin and when Kirk met Scotty's nephew. So this is the precise scene where it's firing back after evading to port in the Matara Nebula. You can see it in the background. You can see the damage. You can see how the gray Aztec decals, but no pearlescent, not on this one. Black dome base, there it is. So it's more like a pearl white hull. There are the decal sheet, and the back. So it's 12 inches long. It's longer than the Reliant. Has battle damage decals, but those appear to be in the wrong spot for either Star Trek 2 or 3. Don't worry, I'll fix it. So let's take a look at the side of the box. You can see here, it says light ghost gray again for the hull. And because it does look duller than it did in the motion picture, I might use that. But just give me a moment here. Look at how dark light ghost gray is in actual fact. And just a moment, give you a preview of the Aztec decals. You see, you would hardly see the Aztec decals against the dark ghost gray hull. So actually, I'm going to pick a matte white, which is what they call for in the motion picture. Well, they want that to be a pearl white, just so the decals will show up. Kind of a matte white like the phaser strips, which are going to be brown soon. So anyway, back to the model itself. I'll show you the instructions first. Looks like I already put some stuff in Ziploc bags. That's good. So here's the instructions. So you can see assembling the saucer, a few different pieces. You see how well the nacelles fit together, so they'll never droop. And once they're in place, you attach the 2 halves of the engineering hull. There's the nacelle assembly. There's precisely how you attach them. So they're not only attached top and bottom, they're also attached tuck in from the sides. Assemble the neck, the deflector dish. Then you put on the saucer, the nacelles, the shuttle bay door, and put it on the stand. Now, speaking of the stand, you can see it here. It's a black stand, unlike the white plastic one of the Reliant. There's the metal rod. There's the attachment piece, which I've never been able to successfully attach on any model kit, so I just leave it off and give it the solid stand. Here are the clear parts, so you can see that's the deflector dish. There's the impulse power dome, the arboretum windows, the warp grills, and photon launchers and impulse engines. So those are the clear parts. All right, here's the 2 halves of the saucer section. Now I remember 5 years ago when My friend Zach helped me build my first refit, the 24th century refit. He said, oh, it'd be nice to build a pristine one, so this one I'll make sure not to damage the paint. You can see it has all 4 docking ports, unlike the 537. And of course, now I know it's black print, but it's not just black print. Take a look. There is also raised, that says 2009. This model kit was originally produced in 2009. Then it was re-released later. And it has the pegs and holes to fit together. See how the plastic is a creamy white hull? Well, take a look at the Enterprise A2500. You see how it also, just by virtue of the pearl white, has a creamy white hull, and you can see how the gray Aztec decals show up, but they're subtle. That is the effect I hope to get for this ship, this 1000 scale ship. All right, and there's the big bag of parts. The parts for the refit on several sprue trees. I'll try to put them back in the bag in the same order they came out. So, the very top, you have the shuttle bay door, the deflector housing, the planetary sensor, which is about to fall off, the bridge dome. Those are the nacelle front grills. These are the nacelle grills that fit in the sides. You have the 2 halves of the net, complete with their indented, but not pushed all the way through windows. So that should make it easy to paint with maybe white paint or bluish gray. Depends what the decals have to offer. You have the nacelle halves. You see the interlocking tabs here. And, yeah, okay, that's that. Here is the secondary hull. You can see how the nacelles will fit in. And there's the 4 halves. So the top and bottom link together. The 2 sides go together. There's the nacelle entry tab right there. Now, oh, there's the stand hole. I was worried. I wondered where it was. This is where the neck fits in. And, of course, the nacelles themselves. So when I'm building them, I'll compare if they're any different. Now look at that. See those raised blocks? Raised like the Enterprise, almost like the decals go there from the Enterprise Refit in Star Trek The Motion Picture. So these raised blocks might get some iridescent traces because in Star Trek 2 you could still see some. And that'll be a good experimentation. So I'll put all the parts away and we'll look at the Aztec decals next. Before I move on to the Aztec decals, I want to show you the supplementary decals I got to turn this into the Star Trek 2 ship. Now, they had a 3 decal set that came with grayish trim decals, including grayish trim, much more subtle, for the nacelle pylons and the strong backs around the deflector housing. I'm sure if I use the magnifying glass on that, we'd be able to see it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it through the magnifying glass. Probably not. I can't even see it with the magnifying glass, so forget that. We have the other deflector housing trim. Oh, I got very close with the Sharpie, but it didn't get it totally. Here's some more for the neck, which is the blowout panels for the warp core going up into the saucer impulse crystal. And, of course, the strong backs for the top of the secondary hull. Now, these are in the faded gray. You see how subtle it is again? That's why it's very important that the hull be painted a white instead of light ghost gray, because clearly that is a brownish gray, not a bluish gray, and you saw how dark Voyager's hull was. Here's the Star Trek II battle damage from Federation Models. See the copyright date there. And you can see the tiny instruction on where to put it so that it's accurate. You see, along the side, Doesn't have the blown out phaser, so this is from the initial attack. All right, so that is, those are for the gray section of the decals. And now I'm going to show you the section of decals that came in the model kit now. The interesting thing is the model kit decals came split up between the Enterprise and the Reliant. So you can see the bridge trim, saucer section, portholes, elevators, impulse. See how subtle that is? You want to make sure it's a dull white hull so you can see them. Phasers, RCS thrusters. See how detailed these are? You can see the phaser holes and the RCS thruster holes in there. 1701. Okay, good. Bottom of secondary hull. The damage decals, again, very, very plentiful. And I'm sure the box or the instructions will show you where to put the damage decals. Because they sure don't show it here, see? They only show the marking decals on the ship. But you see again how subtle the gray is of the Aztec decals? That's why you want to use the white for the hull. And the good thing is all these pictures, oh, okay, they do show the damage. I probably will paint it like that, yeah. And here is what comes with the model. Now take a look, compare the green motion picture decals versus the faded gray, but not blue, nacelle pinstripes and everything. But look at how around the hull, it's almost identical. There's hardly any green in there at all. Look at how stark those sensor bands are. I'm going to see if I can do something about that. Maybe find a lighter set. So now we're going to check the Aztec decals and see if the lighter set is in there. All right, so here we go. This is the Aztec decal set that you had to order separately for this kit, but it came included with the 2009 kit, as you can see here. And again, a very faded gray Aztec set that would hardly show up. But look at the hull pattern. That is the more randomized Star Trek II hull pattern, and not the motion picture hull pattern. The 1000 scale doesn't seem to come with a motion picture hull pattern, unless Decals has it. Anyway, you can see how the layout of the Aztec decals on the Enterprise is almost exactly identical to the layout of the 2009. They probably took the layout exact. The only difference is they said E20 to differentiate between the Enterprise Aztec decals everywhere and on the other side the Reliant Aztec decals, which you can see here. Now, they're about as harsh, about as stark, but you see here? You see how it says apply a specific decal before you put on the nacelles, because you can't get at it otherwise. Which is why I'm going to decal the ship in sub-assemblies before I apply anything. So that's the instructions, and we'll move on to the decals themselves. All right, so here's the first decal sheet. You can see how it has Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So one of them is white for a black base. One of them is gold. Now, that's almost a yellow Inca gold, which is quite appropriate because Star Trek is more than 50. And you can see how all these decals here, they all say R on them. You can see how they were produced in 2020. They all have R everywhere because it's for the Reliant, and the blue-backed paper is very good. You can even see the harsh gray trim. Not green, gray. And then, it's interesting, they have NX and NCC random letters and names. Now these are Enterprise, so the nacelles, the front of the nacelles, because those were there's probably some for the struts as well that are designed to fit around the pillars. Now, of course, the sheet is looking a lot more green than it is in real life. It's actually a light blue. And the third and final sheet, oh, fourth. There's 4 sheets. Okay, here we go. Again, for Enterprise, there's the nacelle struts. So I could probably put the stripes right over the Aztecs here. And then you see all, oh, that's Reliant. See the saucer section now. Look. Let's take a look here. Oh, it is different. Look. Somewhat different. You can still see the little man. But there's the Reliant saucer, both upper and lower. Not sure which one is which, but the instructions will lay that out nicely. That's probably the side of the hull. That's for Enterprise. Again, that's the side of the secondary hull. Good. And then, of course, the final sheet wears the fantail. That's probably the end of the nacelles, where the registry number goes. Here's the saucer with the around the neck. So you both have top and bottom. Now, when it comes to the 1000 scale decals for the refit, it will, of course, be getting the iridescent paint with my finest brush on these patterns so that they will show up. But you see how there's a very light gray? There's a darker gray. That is why the hull is going to be white, not a light gray. I had to make it light gray on the Excelsior to tone it down a bit, but not on these. All right. All right, so what I do is I keep the decals in here. You can see 1000 scale from Acreation models. I used it on the top of my 24th century refit. You can see an example of the sheet here, and you see the red, and you see the yellow. That will be iridescent. So the green will go on top of the yellow, and the red will go on top of the red. And then the blue and gold will be reserved for the other shades of gray. So that, oh, and look, you see how much more subtle the sensor bands are, even though they don't have the windows integrated. So that's good. I might use these more subtle sensor bands. We'll see. And you can see how the colors extend right into the nacelles and everything. But that's for a later model, which I'll unbox at a later time. And of course, if the decal breaks or the Aztecs are not subtle enough, you have a spare set with very, very gray stuff here. So actually, I'm going to put it up front just to make sure to substitute it. Well, I might as well go over the spare set. I mean, Acreation models, yes, backups for gray trim. So you can see the gray trim, you can see the entire saucer. These have windows and docking ports integrated, so they might be a very much simpler backup choice. And you have a choice between not at warp, nacelle trim, nacelle struts with integrated already gray. There you go. And the final sheet has the Enterprise registry, the markings on the bottom of the hull, and saucer, Aztecs, and of course the full sheet of placement instructions. Now notice it says 2008. This is before they came out with colored ones. Nice gray trimmed ones specifically for the Enterprise Refit, the Star Trek II version. All right, so that is the end for this video, and I will redo for the first time in 5 years another Enterprise Refit. You can see how I made this one 24th century version, and it has a faded green trim Let's see how it shows up when I take off the dust. Oh yeah, look, watch this. Huh, 5 years of space dust on it. But this had the colored Acreation Aztecs on the top and on the sides, but you can see because I gave it a chrome hull, they hardly show up, even the colored decals, which is why the next one's going to be white. And you can see on the bottom, that's where I first got the idea to paint my decals, to make sure that I could actually see them. You see here? Of course, don't worry, the docking ports will be the proper color. Now I'm still debating, am I going to shift the registry number up so it doesn't cross seam lines, or am I going to shift it back to its normal position so that it does, just like in the movie? And of course, no metallic accents. Proper colors. But anyway, that's the end for this video, and you can see my finally framed after 32 years Star Trek Next Generation poster, which is a nice backdrop for the other models I've built throughout the years, including the Excelsior. Now, when it comes to the Excelsior, its decals were so stark that I had to do it in gray just to tone them down a bit. But the lightest color in the decals was still a darker gray. And of course, you can see, well, it's hard to see because of the shadow. There we go. George Takei's autograph as Captain Sulu. So that's all for now for the Enterprise Refit and the Reliant. You can see those kits up here on the top of my Star Trek shelf. You can see how I have 3 different versions: original from 03, 05, and 2010 version of the NX Refit. They'll be built, of course. And you know already about model number 39, the restored Enterprise D with AS-18 hull. And of course there are the Christmas presents like the Anson Mount Enterprise, the DS9 space station, and behind the poster, sorry, it's not actually behind the poster, it's right here, the Star Trek Universe logo of the Enterprise C. So I can build one pristine, the Christmas present, and one damaged, the old kit. And you can see how I can build from a newer Excelsior, the NX. 1400 scale, these 3. 1000 scale, those. And of course, 537. So, and 1000 again, so that's 2 Enterprise Bs. One is the Lakota, one is the Enterprise B. And of course, I have 2 Franklins. I might sell one. There's the Kelvin to get autographed by Chris Hemsworth one day, although I'd have to go to an Avengers convention for that. Voyager and the Enterprise. And that is basically the extent of my Star Trek shelf. Oh, I also have the TOS Bridge, Romulan Warbird, though not in 2500 scale, unfortunately, 32. Runabout. And of course, some vintage kits like the AMT Ertl Kronos 1, the Vorcha, I think it's from 2010, 3-piece Adversary set, I think that's from 05, and the K7 space station, which is even earlier than that. So quite a lot of Star Trek kits to build, but it'll be lots of fun. So I hope to see you next time in Sean's model builds, in Sean's model room, and talk to you all later. Bye-bye.